Narcissism, at its core, is a psychological defense mechanism rooted in distorted self-perception and maladaptive coping strategies. This video systematically examines how narcissism develops, its behavioral patterns, its consequences for individuals and society, and why narcissists often perpetuate their own suffering. Narcissistic tendencies typically originate in childhood through two primary pathways, the first being neglect or conditional love. Children who receive praise or attention only when achieving goals, for example grades and appearance, learn to tie their self-worth to external validation. Their authentic self, vulnerable and imperfect, is suppressed to avoid rejection. The second reason is overvaluation. In the same sense, children excessively praised for innate specialness, without of course earning it, develop entitlement and a belief they are superior to others. Psychologically, this creates a fragile self-esteem that depends on constant affirmation. The individual constructs a false self, a persona created and designed to elicit admiration. Philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre's concept of bad faith applies here. Narcissists deny their authentic humanity to cling to an idealized image. To protect their fragile ego, narcissists adopt predictable behaviors. Behaviors such as gaslighting. So this is manipulating others into doubting their reality to maintain control. Also projection, which is accusing others of their own flaws. For example, a disloyal partner obsessively accusing others of cheating. Thirdly, we have triangulation, which is creating rivalries or alliances to destabilize relationships and centralize power. And then, of course, love bombing and discarding. So, overwhelming targets with affection to secure loyalty, then devaluing them when they no longer serve their needs. These tactics are not random. They are logical tools to avoid shame, the narcissist's deepest fear. Shame threatens to expose the gap between their false self and reality. While narcissists may initially attract followers, their relationships often collapse due to three flaws. Transactional dynamics. Relationships are based on utility, not mutual care. Partners eventually feel used. Also, a lack of empathy. Inability to understand others' emotions, of course, erodes trust. And lastly, self-sabotage. Aggression or entitlement drives people away, even in professional settings. Philosophically, this aligns with Aristotle's view that meaningful relationships require virtue. Narcissists fixated on self-interest cannot sustain the return needed for lasting bonds. Narcissism's harm extends to groups and systems. For example, workplaces. Narcissistic leaders prioritize ego over collaboration, stifling innovation. Secondly, families. Children of narcissists often develop anxiety or codependency, perpetuating cycles of dysfunction. And lastly, politics. Narcissistic leaders or dictators, for example, exploit fear and grandiosity to justify oppression. Psychologist Erich Fromm argued that narcissistic societies become destructive as collective empathy erodes. Narcissists are not winning. Despite their behavior, their strategies create a feedback loop. They seek admiration to soothe insecurity. The relief is temporary, requiring ever more extreme validation. failures trigger shame, fueling more manipulation. Buddhist philosophy explains this as attachment to ego, a source of perpetual suffering. The narcissist's refusal to confront their true self traps them in a cycle of emptiness. Narcissism is resistant to treatment because self-awareness is required for therapy. Yet narcissists often reject criticism. However, evidence shows that long-term psychotherapy can help if the individual acknowledges their pain. For society, the solution lies in promoting emotional literacy, teaching children empathy and self-worth detached from achievement, and also setting boundaries, refusing to enable narcissistic behavior in personal or professional relationships. Narcissism is not a moral failing, but a psychological adaptation to early emotional wounds. Its persistence is explained by reinforcement, for example, praise for achievements, and avoidance of shame. While narcissists cause harm, their behavior is a maladaptive survival strategy, one that ultimately isolates them. Understanding this logic allows for clearer boundaries, healthier systems, and perhaps compassion without compliance. The narcissist's tragedy is not their self-love, but their inability to see beyond it.